What's going on, Flock Nation? The wait is finally over. Week 1 of the regular season is here. We'll get my predictions on what the Ravens are going to do this season next year on the Ravens Squad Show.
Enough of the talk. We're about to go up to Buffalo, handle our business. Let's see what the Ravens can do in week 1.
And the Ravens hit the practice field on Monday, and a couple of key players still not participating. We dive into the latest on that and a lot more here on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show.
Rise and shine. It's the Ravens Squad. Everything Baltimore Ravens every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of Charm City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Flock together and squad up. The Ravens Squad Show starts now.
What is going on, Flock Nation? Welcome to another episode of the Ravens Squad Show. I'm your host, Samuel Njoku. Joined as always with KO and Q. We are here, guys. Week 1 of the NFL season. It is time to talk some actual football. Speculation season is over. We're here to talk actual facts that matter in terms of what the Ravens are going to do this season, starting with week 1, as the Ravens travel to Buffalo to take on the team that took them out of the playoffs in the 2024 playoffs, the Buffalo Bills. Again, thanks everyone for joining us. Again, we're available twice a week, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, you can catch the Locked On Ravens podcast with Kevin Oestreicher every time, every day. Get in your Ravens news wherever you can get it. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime, okay? Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Lots and lots of stuff to get to today. As you mentioned, we're going to talk about our record predictions for the upcoming season for the Baltimore Ravens. Season expectations. Last episode, we talked about, some hot takes. We're going to get down to what we expect the Ravens to do this season, and then we'll touch on, at least right now, some key injuries of note to some players that we expect to be hopefully available for that Week 1 contest in this regular season opener against the Buffalo Bills. Let's start with that. As the Ravens took to the practice field on Monday, a couple of key players absent. Isaiah Likely, we know he's dealing with that foot injury. Patrick Ricard's also not practicing, at least as of yet. And Jaire Alexander, who was brought into the Ravens after dealing with knee injuries in Green Bay, was released, and then the Ravens scooped him up. We've been talking about this injury for a while, but it seems like he has yet to hit the practice field. I'll start with you, Kevin. What are your biggest concerns with these injuries, I guess, as we head towards Week 1 against the Buffalo Bills?
Well, I mean, obviously the concern would be none of them are able to play. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case or not. I've been pretty consistent just on, Locked On Ravens, and obviously here on the Squad Show, we've talked about it. Like, is it really realistic Isaiah Likely plays in Week 1? In my opinion, that is probably not going to happen. But, we have to wait and see. It's not official until it is official. So I guess there's hope until there's not. But I know with Jaire and even Patrick Ricard, there's just been so much uncertainty with those guys. And I mean, both of them really haven't practiced in nearly a month. It's been a little bit less for Ricard. I think Ricard has not practiced since August 14th and Jaire since August 9th. If I'm recalling those dates correctly, it's around that for them. So, John Harbaugh has talked about the injuries and has kind of given updates on them periodically. He kind of took the we'll see approach when asked about Jaire after practice. And, they expect him back Wednesday, it feels like, but we will see is what the stance from Harbaugh was there. I mean, at this point, and this is something we talked about, the Ravens knew with Jaire Alexander that over the past handful of seasons, injuries have been a big thing for him. And they didn't bring him in to be the star of their secondary. They're not relying on him. And if Jaire goes down or has to miss time, they're not in a position where they have to be like, oh, we have to scramble. And our secondary all of a sudden is not. No, they still have Marlon Humphrey. They still have Nate Wiggins. They still have Chidobe Awuzie and TJ Tampa and the safety group as well. But Jaire was brought in as more of a luxury addition, more than a we need you addition. Now, of course, he makes your defense better. You want him on the field. He makes that defense pretty impenetrable when it comes to the secondary. But, and Q, I know we've talked about this, you don't want to necessarily rush him back to something like that. His dad has talked about kind of what happened in Green Bay and how that situation was handled. And, at this point, Jaire's a competitor. He wants to get back on the field. But out of the three, I'm most curious to see what happens with Jaire over the course of this week.
Interestingly enough, when you look at injuries, and I think Isaiah Likely, you're absolutely right. I don't foresee him playing. I think this is a contract year for him. He knows that if he plays extremely well towards the end of the year, that's a bonus. That's where you get paid because people want to see what you do in clutch situations, not in the very beginning of the year where you're just kind of everybody is fresh. Everybody's going to be looking good. And, so what? So with that said, I think that it is going to be a scenario where, he's going to be looking at those tight end numbers and guys that are kind of in his realm and realizing, you know what, if I'm healthy, I'm going to get paid because I know I'm going to produce. So I don't see Isaiah trying to hurt his situation by coming back at the breakneck of speed at the beginning of the year. Jaire, as much as I agree with you, Kevin, in a sense I disagree because this is a guy that they're looking to, as much as it looks like, I don't really need him. You need him. You saw the way the veteranness of him and how he galvanized and, elevated the level of swagger in the room. And so I think that is where you need him. You need him out there. And he's an extremely skilled player. When you talk about going up against some of the elites in the game, homeboy stood the test very well. I think, unfortunately, his movement pattern and how he just kind of moves with his footwork, not necessarily specific to a DB, but just in general, it tends to lean towards injury. So therefore, you're looking at a guy where you're rolling a dice, but I think this is a dice that they're willing to roll. But make no mistake about it, they want a veteran out there that can handle the bright lights of Buffalo, cannot blink when the Lions are roaring and doing their thing, Amon St. Brown, that they know when they got to face the Kansas City Chiefs and Xavier Worthy is trying to do his thing, or Rashee Rice is not going to be there, but you also got Hollywood Brown. You want, Jaire to be like, yo, I don't care. I went up against Justin Jefferson and didn't flinch. So I think that is where these injuries, my opinion, they matter.
We got a question here from Brian who asks, do you think Jaire was trying to do too much in training camp in the early goings?
I think it's a scenario where it's not about doing too much. It is about showing that I am capable. It was worth you picking me as a free agent and giving me an opportunity. And this is what I bring. This is my value. I think based upon John Harbaugh's comments of, we knew that, there's going to be some things there. So that's code word for, he showed us what he could do, but we also knew that there was some healing that needed to be still done. I thought, from a bigger picture standpoint, the Ravens training camp is one of the hardest, if not the hardest, in the league. And so I think he needed those vet days, if you will, to kind of give him a chance to recover. I personally didn't think he was going to need to go under the knife to clean things up as far as whatever was with the knee.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest shock. Just because for Jaire, he's a player that is needed. I agree with that, Q. Luckily for them, they do have other guys that they can rely on, and they don't have to rely on, they can put an all-pro out there in Marlon, and they have a really quality second-year guy, Nate Wiggins. But, they don't need to necessarily rush him back from this thing is kind of where I am. It's just, it's hard because he hasn't played a regular season snap for them. And you're right, where we've already seen his impact in multiple different ways. And you're like, man, wait, you're telling me he might not even be available for the opening game of the season, which him being out there would probably change the trajectory of the game in a certain way. I mean, that's tough. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's tough to kind of have that situation right now. Hopefully he'll be able to play. And I know we're not to the official injury report part of the week yet. That's obviously going to start on Wednesday. But, if we get to Wednesday and Jaire is not out there and that goes against what John Harbaugh said, then I think kind of have to start maybe worrying at that point.
Yeah, it's the reason why he was in this situation in the first place. I'm not too worried about it again. I think the Ravens are taking this cautiously. They understand. I know a lot of Ravens fans on social media are saying, hey, let's get this guy ready for the postseason. That's what matters, getting ready for these huge matchups. But, you got to get there first. And I posted the Bills' schedule. I mean, it doesn't get more charm and soft than the schedule that the Bills have as opposed to what the Ravens had to deal with, especially through the first 6 games. And that one seed that, Kevin, you and I talked about on your show a couple of times is probably going to be very vital, especially considering, in my opinion, the Ravens likely win that game against the Bills if the game was at M&T Bank Stadium, as opposed to that slush, snowstorm mix, whatever have you, in that contest on January 19th. So interesting to see what Jaire Alexander performs, gets back to it. I want to touch a little bit more on Isaiah Likely before we hit the break because, as Q, you mentioned, it's very in the way that he should probably hold off on getting out there until he's ready to go, considering it's a contract year for him. But without Isaiah Likely and the holes that this Bills defense, at least last year, had as opposed to the middle of that defense, do you consider there a chance that we see a lot more DeAndre Hopkins than we usually see, or is this the Charlie Kolar coming up party that a lot of Ravens fans may want? I'll start with you on that one.
Wait a minute, pause now. Ho, ho, ho. My boy Charlie, put some respect on this thing. He already came out and was just balling when they had to play the Cowboys, when they had to play Cincinnati. I mean, bruh, he was producing. So this isn't like some kind of, Charlie doesn't know what he's doing or Charlie is underrated or all the other things. Like my guy, that's my guy. So he's been. Like that's just what he does. He just, what's up? You need me? Let's go.
Yeah.
I think that it's not about D-Hop per se so much as it is about the matchups. And technically, I know defensive coordinator-wise, if I am going up against the Ravens and Todd Monken, it's all about stopping 22. If I stop 22, then I have a chance. So then, therefore, it opens things up for the bigger picture of the Charlie Kolars / Mark Andrews of the world to get things going. Training camp taught me this. Last year, you didn't really see Bateman get involved much until probably Cincinnati. And that's like well into the early part of the season. This training camp, he was very heavily involved. So I think that the chemistry that we've seen with Lamar and Bate is going to show up in this game. I think that's where you see the bigger picture and kind of game planning-ish. Look for Bateman to be the guy rather than, my God, Charlie Kolar coming out. Or you see D-Hop. I think D-Hop, he'll get maybe 3 third down, 1 red zone type plays. Let's see what he does with it. But I can also see a Tylan Wallace or a Tez Walker be guys where when you got those long sustaining drives, that's where you'll just see guys just rotate on in. And that's why Tylan is one of the receivers that never was adopted to make the team, because he could roll on in. It doesn't matter where he rolls on into. He'll play any of those positions. So that's kind of how I'm looking at, just the preliminary of this game planning when it talks about going up against the Bills defense.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Lamar Jackson has improved upon over the course of his career, and he's been good at this for a while now, but it is spreading the ball around and not necessarily force feeding. Now, we know early in his career, I remember doing shows almost every week about how it was Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews, one gets 10 targets, the other gets 8, and the rest of the guys get 1 or 0, and you're lucky if you get one. So Lamar, over the course of the last handful of seasons, has been able to spread the ball around a lot more. I think, honestly, what really kicked that off for him, like fully, and he was getting better at it year after year, but when Mark went down for those couple games and the Ravens had to travel to New Orleans and Tampa, that NFC South primetime trip they had, he started to spread the ball to Isaiah, and that was Isaiah Likely's first coming out party, but he started to spread the ball around all the way there. So it's not like if Isaiah's not able to play, you're just like, okay, Zay's going to get all these targets. And that's where those targets are going. You're right. You might see a a guy like Rashod Bateman pick up a couple. Zale pick up a couple. A guy like Tyler Nertez, like Q said, could get one or two more. Charlie can get involved a little bit more as well. Maybe they lean a little bit more on, lighter packages at points. Like you can do a lot when Isaiah's not out there. Obviously, you can do even more when he is out there, but it's not like likely going down just completely changes your entire game plan, in my opinion. And look, if we're talking my bold prediction, 2 1,000-yard receivers, we got to get this started somehow. So let's let Lamar go. Zay Flowers, Rashod Bateman, get him those targets. I gotta hit on at least one of those bold predictions. So that's the one I'm gonna really double down on and say that, you know what, if Likely's out, it's obviously going to open up a decent amount of targets, not a ton, but I think everybody's kind of expecting Mark Andrews to have a big revenge game. Maybe those targets go to Mark, and Mark's able to get open. We know the first game last season, the Chiefs game planned against Mark, and that opened up the field for Isaiah Likely because they were sending so much attention his way. Mark got off to the slow start, and that obviously benefited a guy like Isaiah. Could that be Charlie Kohler? Is that a bold prediction? Could we have the Isaiah Likely Week 1 Chiefs game go to Charlie Kohler this year against the Bills? Because maybe the Bills understand, we know that this guy, Mark Andrews, is going to come out here after what happened last year with his hair on fire, emotions charged up, and we know he's going to do everything he can to right the wrongs, even though I guess he can't go back in time, right? But just to be able to get off to a fast start. Maybe Charlie Kohler goes like for 100. I know Q would not let us hear the end of that if that ended up happening. I want to see it happen. I want
to have it where not only does he go for a hundo, but he also scores, because it just seems like, when he had those long runs, he was getting caught from behind. He did have some nice red zone touchdowns, so it wasn't like he couldn't do it. I know he had a really nice one against Cincinnati, obviously, but I just think that, the other elephant in the room, and I think if you say, 120 for Bateman and a touchdown, you got between 98 and 111 for what we're going to see from Zay Flowers. But Mark Andrews, I think if we're really telling it, he has like this revenge game for his own internal psyche, and obviously the flock is not going to let him off the hook until the playoffs. And that's whatever. That's between the flock and the flock. But I think it gives him that swagger back, that just like, yep, I'm doing this. Because I saw his work ethic in the offseason. You could tell it really was something where he's like, yeah, I'm not going to take this for granted. I think if there was ever an eye on someone, I think it's 89, who's going to be going out there with his hair on fire.
I agree completely. It's going to be Mark Andrews' show. All eyes will be on him. And I don't understand the fan base that really, they're like, some of them are just tuning out the regular season. Call on me when the playoffs start. They're that type of fan base, but you got to understand, you don't get to the playoffs without performing in the regular season, and those absences into your game, they are magnified in the postseason, and sometimes your strengths are magnified as well. So I will pay attention to the regular season. I'm amped up for it. I'm sure we all are too, especially those joining us on the comment section. Appreciate you guys again for tuning in. When we come back, we'll talk about Ravens expectations for us. We talked bold predictions last time. We'll get a little more realistic here with what we think should happen for the Ravens coming up. We'll start with the offense here next on the Ravens Squad Show. NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it is frustrating. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by Gametime Guarantee. You always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Gametime, and just in a couple of taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download Gametime today. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kick off with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can be just $5, a $5 bet. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your $5 bet. All right, folks, we are back here with the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. Again, we are here twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. We will be here on Thursday and then post-game show after the Ravens-Bills game on Sunday. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Also, as I've mentioned, Locked On Ravens with Kevin Oestreicher, Monday through Friday, talking Ravens news all season long, all week long, every day to get your Ravens news. So thank you so much for those tuning in on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe. And if you're listening to us wherever you get your podcasts, please be sure to give us 5 stars and comment. It will really help the show out. Well, we talked about injuries concerning a few key players, but we got some expectations for this Ravens team, as many are touting this as a Super Bowl championship roster. We're going to start with the offense in this segment. Kevin, I'll start with you. What are your expectations for the Ravens this season? Do you see them doing well? Some magnificence? We talked about some bold predictions last game, so I won't hold you to that. But what are your expectations overall for the start of the season?
Yeah, I'm expecting a lot from them. And look, we know the schedule's really tough for the Ravens to start off the year. 5 of 6 opponents will be division winners from last season, the one being that is the Browns in week 2. But even so, like, yeah, that's a tough schedule, but the Ravens also were a really good team. You know, it's not just like, oh, wow, the Ravens have to play all these tough. No, they also have to play the Ravens. So to me, I'm expecting them, because I know the slow start last season was, I know that some people were expecting them to lose to Kansas City last year. I get it. I had them winning that game based off the emotions, and they almost did if Isaiah Likely had worn the right color cleats, maybe. But alas, it was not meant to be. But then that Raiders game was just such a letdown, and you're thinking, man, what is going on? And we know the Ravens have a game or two every year where they lose a game that they clearly are favored in and should win, and they, whether it's they play down to them or whatever it is. My expectation this season is that does not happen. Like, I'm expecting that from them, especially because I think the AFC is going to be very competitive, not just the Bills and the Chiefs and the Ravens. And I'm not ordering those in any order. I'm just saying those are the top 3 teams in the AFC right now. But we know the Bengals in that offense are going to put up points. Now, the defense is going to give them up, but, you know, we have to see how many points that defense actually does give up. You know, the Steelers are always a team. I mean, has Mike Tomlin ever had a losing season? No. So, you know, the expectation is that they're just going to be maybe a thorn in the side. You have other teams like the Chargers who are looking to improve. The Broncos had a great season last year, and Bo Nix is entering his 2nd season. There are a bunch of teams here that can potentially make noise. So if I'm the Ravens, I want to get off to as fast as a start as possible. And that's my expectation for them, because I think they understand. And we even heard Ronnie Stanley talk about it today. It was like, hey, we know that every game in this league is so important. If they had just won one more game last season, if they didn't let that Raiders game slip away, if they didn't let that Browns game happen last season, it would have been the divisional round in Baltimore instead of in Buffalo. And that could have been all the difference. So you have to take every game seriously. I know they do that, but it's just a matter of being able to go out there, execute, and perform. I don't expect them to go undefeated this season. I don't. They're a great team. I expect them to be one of the best in the NFL. I'm not placing that expectation upon them, because for the majority of the NFL's history, save for a team, it's been unrealistic where you get that once every, 30, 40 years. So I'm not expecting that Ravens team to have that, but I expect them to come out with a vengeance, with fire, because I've said it, guys. I'm tired of the Ravens revenge tours, right? This is like their 7th revenge tour. All right. Like they have enough fuel, right? They've added enough to that fire. Go out there, get the job done. I'm expecting them to start fast and really not let up for the whole season.
Yeah. I think the big thing for me is the AFC North and winning it, period, end of discussion. No matter how you mix it, if you win the AFC North, you're going to put yourself in the playoffs, period. So I think that, yes, while the fast start is necessary, winning the division is necessary. I think that if they look at that September schedule and realize that 3 of those 4 teams are AFC opponents, then if you handle your business, then you're looking at a potential home playoff game if you go 3-1. So clearly you're taking that L versus the Lions. I'm not saying that should happen, but I would rather see that than them have a letdown game against Cleveland after going up to Buffalo and taking care of the Bills. I think this is critical for them this year to get off to a torrid start. Like, just wreck shop. Nobody's going to get in our way type of playing ball, especially on defense. I want to see this defense, like, big time. 3 of these teams, not that I'm disrespecting Joe Flacco, but you know what? They're going to be what they're going to be as far as a division opponent. But when it comes to Jared Goff, when it comes to, staring down the battle of Allen and of Mahomes, like, that's where I think if you're wanting to be upper tier, next level, like, just, hey, we ain't messing around. And I agree with Kevin as far as this whole revenge tour, drama, corniness, cliche, blah, blah, blah. But I think defensively, I want to see it. I want to see them go up against some quarterbacks and not flinch, period.
Yeah, and I think that Lamar Jackson has a lot on his shoulders. We say that every year, and Kevin, you mentioned the revenge tour. I'm absolutely sick of it as well. Get it done. It's not a revenge tour if you have to go out for revenge every year. At some point, it's just to put up a shut up time. So I think we're nearing that segment. But for Lamar Jackson in particular, you could tell after that Bills game, he looked exacerbated. I mean, I watched the film and I watched the press conference afterwards. He was just sick and tired of losing these games. Do you think that, and Q, you've been in training camp, so you've seen his demeanor. I think I've read some articles where you could tell his demeanor has changed. He's running up to players and he's coaching them up before they even get back to the sideline. It looks like he's ready to go. He had 41 touchdowns and only 4 picks last year, a crazy TD to interception ratio. Is there a realm in which he gets even better than last year, or do you see him potentially taking a step back?
Well, I think all the greats have the idea of, we look at one thing to excel on, and we're going to just continue to just get better at that one thing. And then next year it'll be something else. And then the next thing will be something else until the wheels fall off. I think for, Lamar Jackson, it doesn't, like, the numbers, I don't think they matter. I think the turnovers matter. I think, again, maybe we'll see, what the heck, a Peyton Manning-esque 50 touchdown type of year where it's just he could do no wrong and just be balling. And just everyone is feasting. Kevin and I are on the 1,000 train. Well, you had Dallas Clark had 1,000. Marvin Harrison had 1,000. You had Brandon Stokely had 1,000. And then you had Reggie Wayne had 1,000.
Reggie Wayne. Oh, my gosh.
Did Dallas Clark? I don't know if Dallas Clark had 1,000. I definitely know Reggie Wayne had 1,000, as well as Marvin, as well as Brandon Stokely. But regardless, I think even if Dallas was just shy of it, or if he eclipsed it, like, that's just peak efficiency. And they might have had a 1,000-yard rusher. The point is that it can happen. Precedent was set. Let's go. LFG. Yeah. What we talking about? Like, Lamar's not settling. And yes, in training camp, we saw how he was way more vocal, way more, his style of leadership had to change and evolve. And we saw that in training camp. We saw him going up to guys. We saw guys feeling comfortable going up to him. And I think that's really cool. Tez Bryant recognizing that, if Lamar is talking to me, I'm all ears. I'm open and ready to hearing it. What's up? Let me hear it. I understand it.
Yeah, and it's a big thing for me too when you talk about expectations, is like, I don't want to necessarily put like the statistical like expectation that he's going to eclipse 41. Hey, I'd love it. It's certainly possible, right? I'm with it. Man, Q, where's that? Yes, where was that last squad show during our bowl predictions? You got the 50 touchdowns and 1,000. Man, see, that's what I'm like. I like that one. But to me, with Lamar, there are still things, and it's crazy to say that he could get better than he already is, because you look at a 41 touchdown, 400 reception season, and you're like, how can a dude get better than that? Like that's one of the all-time. And actually, Chad Johnson on Nightcap with Shannon Sharp, they were talking about the Kyle Hamilton extension, and this was the topic of the show Locked On Ravens this morning that I talked about, and he said that Shannon Sharp goes, you got a 2-time MVP, and Ocho was like, no, and Shannon's like, you can't do that, you got to give him what he got. And then Ocho was like, I don't care what the numbers say, he's a 3-time MVP. Now they took one of those MVPs from him based off of one of the best statistical seasons from a quarterback in the history of the game. And he goes, I love Josh Allen, but last year's MVP was a damn here. That's what it was. Like, you look at a season like that and you're like, how can you get better? But it's little technical things. Obviously, everybody's going to bring up the postseason and this, that, and the other. And, again, I think that's a team thing, not a Lamar thing, but obviously Lamar's a part of the team. So everyone's going to kind of get on him for that. But at the end of the day, I think that Lamar Jackson can be better this season. Will that mean he throws 50 touchdowns? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe he throws a little less, but he's more efficient in other areas, or maybe he's more consistent with certain areas of his game that maybe were up and down last season. And it's crazy to think for a guy that was the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for over 4,000 yards and rush for over 900 yards in a single season, that there is more to what he can become. But he's that talented of a player. He has the talent around him as well. Obviously, Derrick Henry takes pressure off of him, as Lamar also takes pressure off of Derrick Henry. You have the receiving core. You have the tight ends. Obviously, the offensive line, probably your biggest question on that offense. But we know that Lamar Jackson is the best in the league at making an offensive line maybe look a little better than they appear at times. So I think, to me, Lamar Jackson's in store for another incredible season. And maybe this is his 3-time, should be 4-time MVP season. Who knows?
Yeah, I agree. This could be it. And, again, like you said, I don't want to put a statistical number on it because statistically speaking, it's going to be very difficult to duplicate his performance, let alone exceed it. But you mentioned the little things he can improve upon. And I think Angie Voorhees might be an upgrade now at that left guard spot. Could be seeing better protection, better running lanes for Derrick Henry. So this offense definitely has a chance to be even better. But I like the realistic expectations. These expectations, I think, are good enough to get them that 1 seed and potentially a trip to San Francisco, which we're all hoping for. When we come back, the next segment, we'll touch a little bit more on what Kadri was talking about, because he talked about what he wants to see from his defense. We'll touch a little more on that. Hopefully the Ravens defense is up to task. They've definitely done their due diligence, Eric DeCosta has, in improving this defense and getting them ready for what could be a pivotal stretch of games in these first 6. We'll touch on it next here on the Raven Squad Show. We have an important request, guys. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to LockedOnPodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's LockedOnPodcast.com/survey. You can also find a link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. The NFL season is right around the corner, and you can feel the buzz. Fantasy football season is here. Everyone's researching, drafting, and building their championship squads. If you haven't joined the league yet, now's the time. It's all happening on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, I'm playing Yahoo Fantasy on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran creating your millionth league. Yahoo Fantasy is loaded with fun ways to complete and brand new features that makes the game even better. With season kickoffs on September 4th, coming close now is the time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football, which offers so many fun ways to compete. Want more ways to play? Try the brand new Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine League mode, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated weekly until only one team is left standing. The NFL season kicks off September 4th, so don't wait. Start your league now. Draft now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. We are back here, Raven Squad Show, twice a week, as we mentioned. Get ready for some Ravens news with Locked On Ravens podcast every day with Kevin Oestreicher. We talked about the offensive expectations. Let's touch on the defense. We touched on Jaire Alexander potentially being out for week 1. We'll see what happens on Wednesday with that. But even without Jaire, this is the team that is loaded. Mike Green, Malachi Starks. It's looking like a defense that's going to pretty much bounce back from the start of the season in 2024. KO, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts with this Ravens defense? What are your expectations for them in this 2025 season?
Extremely high. It's honestly through the roof for me. And a lot of that has to do with the replacements that they have brought in. And Jaire, available week 1 or not, I still expect him back at some point. So you have him, and I've made the graphic that I put out on social media about how essentially you're replacing Brandon Stevens with Jaire Alexander. You're replacing Marcus Williams with Malachi Starks. You're replacing Eddie Jackson with a guy like Chidobe Awuzie. Like, those are pretty substantial upgrades, in my opinion. Not to mention that, yes, we saw a slow start from Zach Orr last season, right? And it wasn't all on him, obviously. It was some of the players. Like, we saw that there were blown coverages and other things as well. Sure, some inexperience. It shined through at times, but then things started to click, and they clicked, obviously, after that closed-door meeting they had after that second Bengals game. So still have no idea how they won either of those games, but I'll take it. I'm glad they did. But to me, year 2 of Zach Orr's defense, not a lot of turnover. You add more talent to it, because the last couple of years, we've seen a decent amount of turnover on that defense. And, other guys have gone on to have good years or bad years with their new teams. Like, you still have to replace guys. You bring in, I think, honestly, Chuck Pagano is a really underrated addition to the coaching staff. And I think with his football expertise, experience, and that secondary, that's going to really help them. We've seen so many guys, because everybody looks at the star power, right? It's Kyle Hamilton, it's Roquan Smith, it's Matabike, Humphrey, Jaire, etc. But you also talk about other guys like Tavius Robinson and Travis Jones and maybe Aeneas Peebles, others as well. I think that for a fourth corner, Chidobe Awuzie is really good for a fourth corner. Nate Wiggins going into his second season, based off the year he had his rookie season, there's a lot of potential there too. So it's like they're stacked at pretty much every single position on that defense. Their biggest loss, in my opinion, was Michael Pierce. That was for, honestly, both sides of the ball the whole offseason. I'd say Michael Pierce is probably their biggest loss of free agency, and that was obviously just a retirement. But you're hoping that the guys can step up. So for me, at least, I'm expecting this to be at the very minimum a top 5 unit. I know that they're the best in the league in a lot of different categories after that Cincinnati game and through the second half of the season, because the run defense was elite all season last year. It was the pass defense that was kind of lagging behind and caught up. I think they'll miss our Darius Washington in certain spots. I know it's not going to be all picture perfect. That I know we wish it all could be, but it won't. But it could honestly be about as close to it as you can get in NFL football.
Trenton Simpson. When we look at this defense, when we look at the troubles that were early on, they got rid of a lot of guys. Eddie Jackson ain't walking through that door any longer. We don't got to worry about him making mistakes. So, at the same time, we also recognize that Trenton Simpson is the one guy that is about to get a redo. And so when you look at the redo, we're hoping that this redo does not slow down what is going to be an epic year. Maybe not 2000, but it's going to be close to it. And I think when you look at the bigger picture, Trenton Simpson is the key to unlocking what the Ravens are going to be unleashing upon offenses. I think when you look at Allen and the way in which that Buffalo Bills offense operates, they were picking apart that weak side linebacker. If you can hold it down, I promise you, this level of play will be amazing when it comes to across the board of the different quarterbacks that you're going to be facing, because there will be no energy leaks, as they say, when it comes to the defense. Trenton Simpson, you have now been officially put on notice.
That is a good one. Yeah, he is definitely, I'm going to call him the weak link, but he's the question mark of the defense. And I know a lot of Ravens fans expect the Ravens to run a lot of nickel and dime looks, and that's fine. But there is a place where the Ravens will need more than one inside linebacker to sit there and do his job. And We talked about the Jay Higgins of the world, the Teddy Buchanans, all the other guys that have come in and probably stepped up in a big way, hopefully for this inside linebacker core. But it starts and ends with, I believe, Trenton Simpson. And if he doesn't step up, could be a tough couple of days as these other guys. We talk about Teddy Buchanan, he's a rookie. Higgins, he's a rookie as well. So you're going to be leaning on a rookie if you can't get it done with Simpson, who has the expectation for this defense, who knows this defense better than anybody. At least he should, being this is his second time at it. So I don't know. I'm interested to see what this inside linebacker core looks like. Roquan Smith definitely needs some help, so to keep him from doing things that he's not comfortable with doing. So I agree with you completely. But we can't talk about the defense unless we talk about the pass rush of this team. A lot of for a team that was second in sacks, there's been a lot of talk about improving the pass rush, which I get honestly, but that doesn't mean we can't talk about guys that we expect to step up in a big way. We've kind of flirted with the process of Mike Green having a starting role in this defense eventually. But I think we're all in agreement, right, that Mike Green probably isn't going to start right away. KO?
Yeah. I mean, I think to me, with all of the depth that they have there, plus, the Ravens tending to favor vets over rookies, and at least ones that there's not a clear path to playing time. And for Mike Green, you can argue there is, but with essentially 3 guys ahead of him in terms of vet status that you feel comfortable playing there, I think it's going to be more of an uphill climb for Green to earn snaps. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to have no role starting in week 1. I think he'll certainly be on the field. But again, we've heard how much the coaching staff has glowingly talked about Tavius Robinson. Obviously, Kaveh, Noah, and Lafe-Owe are going to play those big roles too. So, I think that Mike Green, and I'll stand on this, by the end of the season, I think Mike Green will be the Ravens' best pass rusher. I'm not going to waver on that. I've said that for a while now, but I don't think it's just going to be like, boom, Mike Green's all of a sudden like a 3-down player for them. He has 3-down potential. He showed that in college, but maybe it's situationally on 3rd down to start, maybe some run plays to start off. But I think the beauty of the Ravens defense is the fact that a lot of the time they can be positionless at so many different parts of that. So you can find ways to get guys on the field when you need them. And sometimes it's a little bit out of the ordinary what positions certain guys are playing. I remember Ravens, everybody freaking out about Justin Houston dropping back into coverage from that edge spot and being like, what are you doing dropping now? Q and I know we talked about it that season. We're like, what are we doing dropping back Justin Houston, a 55-year-old guy out there playing all these snaps, and he's dropping back into coverage, and it was against the Chiefs, and guys were beating him up the sideline. We're like, what are we doing here? So they get creative, maybe a little too creative sometimes, but I think that generally is to their advantage. Maybe that's the way Mike Green can get on there.
So about the Mike Green flow, you got to go over to the Odafe-Owe vibe. When you look at Odafe, it is his inability to win one-on-one matchups and to draw double teams. I think Mike Green, to Kevin's point, for him to show up as the best pass rusher on the team, it's because of the way in which he's going to be relentless coming off that edge, and you're not going to be able to just have your tackle out on him. You're going to see where teams are going to have to scheme to him. That's when you know you're doing something. But it'd be interesting to see with him, Matabike, and KVN all in the game at the same time. I think that's where it gets a little fancy with the spices. I can see Joe Flacco shaking in his boots.
Oh, yeah.
I can see Jared Goff throwing that check down quick, fast, in a hurry. Like, that to me is where you got to be on your P's and Q's when you're talking about, like, the Ravens' talent as far as getting to the passer. Put him in there. Put Matabike in there. Put KVN in there. Let them boys eat.
I agree completely. And one note from Goman, Tavius Robinson is a guy that we've all talked about as potentially being a pass rusher that flashes big time. It looks like it might be his coming out party, especially with these other pass rushers. He may not see the double teams. He may not see the things that, other pass rushers see, especially coming out like this, especially considering that you assume the Ravens are going to be ahead in a lot of these games and they're going to need to drop back and pass even more. That means These older pass rushers are going to need a spell or two to catch their breath running after the quarterback time in and time out, which gives Tavius Robinson an excellent opportunity to show up and show out for the Baltimore Ravens. Q, do you have anything else to add to that before we head over to
Yeah,
break?
I was going to say, for Tavius, it's more along the lines of stopping the run. We are in the AFC North. And as much as I want to say, hey, look, we got to stop the run, stop the pass and get after the passer, we're in the AFC North. We run the football. This is a physical conference. He is going to be looked at more along the lines of setting that edge. Now, with that said, yeah, if you're going to have play action or RPOs or even out to the back, trying to get the ball out via screens or whatever, I think he can be a disruptor for sure. So not taking anything away from but the pure statistics of his role isn't going to be, hey, volume type of sacks.
Okay, anything to add to that?
No, yeah, I mean, I think that for Tavius in particular, he's a guy that, like, we've seen the arsenal improve. Obviously, we know his talent as a run defender, and I know that play against Josh Allen is the one that I always go back to when in the divisional round when it comes to what's going on with what Tavius can be as a player. Like, people just assume, I think, that he's a solid early down player, but on third downs, you want to change him out for somebody who maybe has a little more pass rushing chops. But I think Tavius has improved in that area. So I think there's going to be maybe a bigger role for him than some people anticipate, because everybody kind of looks to Owe and the annoy and the excitement around Mike Green. But I think Tavius is a pretty underrated player in that defense.
Everybody going to eat is what KO is saying. Everybody's going to get themselves a plate. That sounds like something I'll be very interested in seeing. But when we come back, we are going to touch on the greatness that is predicting the Ravens record. We're going to put on our Nostradamus hats on. We're going to try and figure out exactly where the Ravens land at season's end in terms of records and what that can mean for them moving forward here next on the Raven Squad Show. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's where there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data, visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Monarch makes it easy, simple to review my finances with my partner. We can both see budgets, goals, and spending activity in one place. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL. We're back here, Raven Squad Show. Time to get to Ravens predictions. My favorite time of year is where I get to guess pretty much what the Ravens record are going to be, how they'll do this season, and then gloat about it if we get it right and not talk about it again if we get it wrong. That's what we're going to do here in the Ravens Squad Show. We're going to predict the Ravens record. Let's take a look at their schedule real quick before we get started. In fact, I'll just name out their opponents. Most Ravens fans already know we play the Bills week 1, followed by the Browns at home and the Lions on Monday Night Football. Then the Kansas City Chiefs. We head over there to Kansas City. Afterwards, we play the Texans at home, the Rams at home, and then there's a bye week. Brutal 6-game stretch. Then we get the Bears at home, followed by the Dolphins away, Vikings away, Browns away, Jets at home, Bengals at home, Steelers at home, Bengals away. And then we close things out with the Patriots, Packers, and Steelers at week 18. Gentlemen, I will start with you. Q, I want to get your prediction for the Ravens this season, record-wise, anything that falls with that if you like.
So before I even say about my record and that prediction, I want to say in the Bills game, one of the main things that we're missing out on with Jared Allen and the whole flow, it's literally the punt return scenario for us as far as field position. And so if we're really looking at in a hostile environment, coaching comes into play. What is the coaching McDermott as well as Harbaugh, both you got to say are on the hot seat. Both have made strong strides as far as regular seasons. I think the Bills won 5 AFC East titles. Therefore, you look at the Ravens, they've done their fair share of winning as well. It's well documented. But when it comes to the ability to make those in-game adjustments, is it Sean McDermott or is it John Harbaugh? And I think punt return is going to be really critical. LeJontay Wester, is he going to put him back there, or is he going to put another sure-handed guy back there like a Tylan Wallace? I'd be curious to see what that is going to be looking like. Clearly, Tyler Loop, he's going to be sitting there like, oh my God, this is not college anymore. So that's going to be very interesting. If those guys can mature, let's go ahead and talk about the regular season. And so I think from a regular season standpoint, I really do believe Marlon Humphrey is going to step up and his defense is going to show out. And so all the pieces that we've been naming, again, there's no Eddie Jackson, a.k.a. Freddie Jackson, to worry about. I think this is a season in which, they're going to be doing what they need to do, and they go ahead and they secure 13 wins.
I like it.
I like it too.
That's kind of where I settled as well. I on my show this morning for Locked On Ravens, I kind of outlined a best case and worst case scenario, assuming there's like a regular amount of injuries, like some, because obviously like health will be the name of the game here for them. If they stay healthy, they'll probably win a lot more games than maybe we even think. If they don't stay healthy, then it might be more of a rough season. So I'm just going with like the regular amount of injuries. Hopefully it'll be around what they've actually had the past 2 years, because they really haven't had a ton. They've been pretty healthy over the last 2 seasons. I settled at 13-4 in the middle. I said, best case, you can go 14-3 in that case. Worst case, with their roster, even with some injuries, I still think 12-5 is probably like worst case for me in that regard. So I think 13-4 is a pretty good way to split it up. I think I had them being pretty consistent early. I think I had them like splitting with the Steelers. I think I had them losing a couple of NFC games. I think the Packers were one and the Rams were another. So I think 13 is pretty realistic for them. And again, like a lot of teams love to be in that situation where you could call 13 wins realistic. A lot of teams are trying to fight to get above double digits. So that's where the Ravens are right now. That's where their roster is. Like you have so many sky high expectations, and with that roster, it's certainly deserved.
Kevin, that's a good segue. I'm glad you mentioned it. What are the games that you see on the schedule that are probably the toughest? Name your top 3 toughest games in the schedule. If you don't have the schedule offhand, you can go ahead and pull it up. But if you do have it, we'd love to know what 3 games in the season give you the most worry as a Ravens fan.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Bills and Chiefs are always just going to be there. I mean, it's AFC powerhouse versus AFC powerhouse, right? I mean, those are games that the Ravens are going to have to get up for, play hard, win. Like, it's always going to be tough to play those 2 teams. And then, honestly, I'm not super worried about the Bengals this season just because of that defense. I mean, honestly, the Steelers from a Ravens perspective, and they're more of like that middling. Like the Bengals have more fluctuation in terms of how good or bad they can be. The Steelers are just kind of like, they'll probably like be middle of the pack to higher end of the pack good, but not like spectacular, not terrible. I think that Rams game, honestly, like the Rams are good, and I think that they're underrated because they don't have a lot of like household names. Like they don't have Aaron Donald anymore, Jalen Ramsey on that defense. It's more so guys like, do people know who Jared Verse is? They should, because he's one of the best pass rushers already in the NFL. But like, they have guys like Byron Young and others on that unit that are really, really good that don't have as much name recognition as those other guys do. But then again, it's like Matthew Stafford, Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams. Like they have dudes on that offense. Like they're a really good team. So I think that Rams game is going to be a tough one. Not that they can't win it. I mean, we saw what Tylan Wallace. I mean, hey, Tylan, go have another moment. Go bring it home for the Ravens.
He's good for one.
I think I'm gonna go with the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Rams as my top 3.
It's interesting because with the Rams, I think that is going to be a game where Mike Green really shows his value, and he goes out and gets 3 critical sacks, one in the first quarter to set the tone on Matthew Stafford, and then 2 critical late in the game sacks that are going to turn the tide and seal the deal. When I look at this schedule, you're right. I think there are going to be games where, they should win. I think, we are looking at the Chiefs, looking at the Bills. I think I said Jared Allen. I meant Josh Allen. Forgive me. Anyway, that being said, Josh is going to be a thorn in the side defensively, but I think they get it done. So my attention turns to Aaron Rodgers. I think that just because they're Pittsburgh, just because it's a rival game, it's going to be a pain in the neck, and I'm here for it. So give me the Chiefs. Give me Pittsburgh at home where they're going to honor a certain Super Bowl team. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that if we're being honest with ourselves, the Bengals, I think that as much as we are talking about their defense not showing up, I think their offense has just been a pain for this Ravens ball club. So I got to go with the Bengals. You gotta say 2 division opponents are really going to be tough ones just because, and then the Chiefs just because.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're all going to be tough. I think another game to watch out for is the Packers. The Ravens are playing Green Bay, and I just get nervous from the inclement weather that we saw in that divisional game last year. Do the Ravens have what it takes to fight off that inclement weather? Hopefully it's 70 degrees and sunny in Green Bay, but probably not. So we'll see where the Ravens are in terms of seeding when it gets to that point. I think the Ravens get 14 wins. I'm around there with you guys. 15 if they take care of business against both the Bills and the Chiefs. But, the Ravens are good for one crazy loss this season. Hopefully they get their mind right for it. But, we'll see. I thought last year would be the year where those flimsy losses will be behind us, but they found a way to lose against the Browns and the Raiders. So I think they're good for at least one. But 15 wins, 14 wins, I'm around there. That might not be enough to win the 1 seed in the AFC with the Bills having, again, a charming soft schedule. They play the Ravens, they play the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Steelers. And I think those are really the only 4 tough games in their schedule. They could split that, then they most assuredly had probably the 1 seed. So interesting to see what the Ravens do to fight them off. I think a win here in week 1 would be huge for the Ravens. We'll see what happens. But again, thank you guys so much for joining us here on the Raven Squad Show. It's been a great episode. Week 1, we are here. Next episode is on Thursday, and we'll be talking all about the big Ravens versus Bills matchup. We'll get down to the nitty gritty. We'll probably have more clarity on the injury situation as well. So lots and lots to talk about. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you do tune in for that episode. Thank you for making Locked On Raven Squad Show your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL season previews on Locked On NFL. Every division winner, breakout stars, and Super Bowl contender. An 8-episode series with everything you need to know about the NFL season. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Again, thank you guys so much for joining us. If you're listening wherever you get your podcast, give us 5 stars and comment. If you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe, and make sure you check out Kevin's Locked On Ravens podcast every day for your Ravens news. That's going to do us for here at the Raven Squad Show, and we will see you on Thursday.